The massive alien exploration vessel Star Seeker hung silently in the dark void of space, its sleek purple hull reflecting the distant starlight. Captain Reed stood on his command bridge, his four eyes fixed on the strange object that had appeared on their long-range scanners. "What do you make of it?" he asked his science officer, who was busy studying the readings on his crystal display screen. "It appears to be a ship, sir, but it's unlike any design in our database," the science officer replied, his antenna twitching with curiosity. "Based on the hull composition, it's of human origin." A wave of laughter swept across the bridge. The humans were a known species, but they were considered primitive by the standards of the Galactic Alliance. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel a century ago, while the Alliance had been crossing the stars for millennia. "Bring us closer," Captain Reed ordered, his mandibles clicking with amusement. "Let's see what kind of ancient garbage we found today." As the Star Seeker approached, the shape of the vessel became clearer. It was massive, nearly as large as their own ship, but its design was completely different from the smooth organic shapes preferred by Alliance engineers. This ship was all hard angles and thick armor plates, painted in faded black and gray. Large letters on its hull spelled out UES Thunder. "Scanning now, Captain," the science officer reported. "It's definitely a human warship, probably from their first interstellar war period. Most systems appear to be dormant. Power readings are minimal, barely enough to maintain basic life support. Their weapon systems are primitive. Rail guns, missile tubes, and what appears to be early plasma technology." Captain Reed rose from his command chair and walked closer to the main viewport. "Look at those thick armor plates," he said, gesturing with one of his upper arms. "Such a waste of resources. They didn't even understand proper shield technology back then." More scans revealed details about the ship's construction. The UES Thunder was built like a fortress, with layer upon layer of armor plating. Its engine section was massive, suggesting powerful but inefficient propulsion systems. Various weapon emplacements dotted its hull, but they all appeared cold and lifeless. "Sir," the engineering officer called out, "I'm detecting some interesting materials in their hull composition. Could be valuable for our research division." The humans may have been primitive, but they were known for some creative solutions. Captain Reed considered this for a moment. Salvaging the ship could provide insights into early human military technology. Even primitive species sometimes stumbled upon useful innovations through their desperation and limited understanding. "Prepare a salvage team," he ordered. "I want this relic stripped down and studied. Perhaps we'll learn something about how these humans managed to survive their first contact wars despite their technological disadvantages." As the salvage teams prepared their equipment, none of the alien crew noticed the slight power fluctuation in the human ship's core. None of them saw the brief flash of light in one of the bridge windows or the shadow that moved past it. The science officer was too busy preparing his reports to notice that the minimal power readings he detected were coming from only a small portion of the ship's systems, and Captain Reed, standing proudly on his bridge, never thought to ask why a species would leave such a large warship so far from their territory. "Sir," a salvage team leader reported in, "we're ready to begin cutting into their hull. These old human ships use such basic security systems. This should be quick work." "Proceed," Captain Reed commanded, settling back into his chair. "Let's see what secrets this ancient human relic has been hiding all these years." As the salvage team's cutting beams touched the Thunder's hull, a soft blue light flickered deep within the ship's corridors. In a cryo chamber buried deep in the vessel's heart, environmental systems began their wake-up sequence, and in the ship's central computer core, an AI designated as Old Thunder began running its first full system diagnostic in 50 years. The aliens had found their relic, but they hadn't yet realized that this relic had found them first. The cryopod's ice crystals melted away as warm air filled the chamber. Inside, Tom Mason's eyes flickered open for the first time in 50 years. His mind was foggy, but his military training kicked in immediately. Something had triggered the emergency wake-up sequence. "Status report," he mumbled, his voice rough from decades of disuse. A gentle blue light filled the chamber as Old Thunder, the ship's AI, responded. "Welcome back, Commander Mason. We have visitors. Unauthorized salvage attempt in progress. Hull breach expected in approximately 10 minutes." Tom's mind cleared quickly as the cryopod's revival drugs flooded his system. He reached for the neural interface pad next to his pod, placing it on his temple. Instantly, the ship's internal feeds flooded his vision. "Show me our guests," he ordered. Multiple camera feeds appeared in his mind. The alien ship was impressive, he had to admit. Their technology had advanced significantly since the last intelligence reports he'd reviewed. But their arrogance, that hadn't changed at all. Through the external cameras, he watched their salvage team preparing to cut through the Thunder's hull. Their tools were advanced, but they hadn't even bothered to scan for the ship's secondary defense layers. "They think we're primitive," Tom said, a small smile forming on his face. "Let's keep it that way for now. Old Thunder, initiate Protocol Ghost Ship." "Protocol Ghost Ship activated," the AI responded, maintaining minimal power signatures. "All advanced systems remain in stealth mode. Would you like me to activate the defense grid?" "Not yet," Tom replied, pulling himself out of the cryopod. "Let's watch them for a while. I want to know what they're after." He made his way to the bridge, his muscles quickly regaining their strength thanks to the advanced medical systems built into his uniform. The ship's corridors were dark, lit only by emergency lighting, exactly as they should appear to any salvage team expecting an abandoned vessel. On the bridge, Tom settled into the captain's chair. The neural interface gave him complete awareness of every part of the ship. He could feel the alien cutting beams starting to work through the outer hull layer. "They're taking their time," he observed, scanning each layer as they go through. "At least they're thorough. Their science officer is particularly interested in our hull composition," Old Thunder reported. "They believe they've discovered something valuable." Tom watched through internal sensors as the first team of aliens entered through their newly cut hole. They moved cautiously, their environmental suits glowing with built-in lights. Their weapons were drawn but held casually. They weren't expecting any resistance. "Look at these corridors," one alien said, his translated voice coming clearly through the ship's sensors. "Such primitive design. All straight lines and defensive positions. They built their ships like fortresses." "These humans," another replied, "they didn't understand proper ship design. No wonder they needed such thick armor. Their shield technology was probably too weak to protect them properly." Tom couldn't help but smile again. The aliens were walking right past the shield emitters, not recognizing them for what they were. The Thunder's true defenses remained invisible to their scans, just as they were designed to be. "Sir," one of the alien salvage team members called out, "we're picking up some power readings. Very faint, probably just residual energy in their primitive systems." Through the external cameras, Tom watched as more alien ships arrived. They were treating his vessel like an abandoned museum piece, a relic to be studied and stripped for parts. "Old Thunder," he said quietly, "begin warming up the secondary power grid. Keep it subtle. Let's not spoil the surprise just yet." "Secondary grid initiating warm-up sequence," the AI confirmed. "Estimated time to full combat readiness, 15 minutes. Should I continue to mask our true power signatures?" "Yes," Tom replied, watching as more alien salvage teams entered his ship. "Let them think they found a helpless old warship. They'll learn soon enough why the Thunder-class vessels were left out here as guardians." He stood up, stretching his fully recovered muscles. "And Old Thunder, prepare the ship-wide communication system. I think it's time we welcome our guests properly." In the darkness of the bridge, status lights began to blink slowly to life, their soft glow reflecting off Tom's determined face. The aliens had no idea they'd just walked into one of humanity's most sophisticated traps, and he was going to enjoy showing them just how primitive human engineering could be. The alien salvage teams had spread throughout 3 decks of the UES Thunder, their confidence growing with each primitive system they encountered. They walked past hidden weapon systems, stepped over concealed shield generators, and completely missed the advanced sensor arrays built into the seemingly simple walls. Captain Reed, the salvage team leader, reported through his comm system, "We've mapped out most of their main engineering section. Their technology is even more basic than we thought." They were still using physical buttons and manual controls. On his own ship, Captain Reed clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Excellent. Download whatever data you can from their computers. Even primitive human military technology might have some value to our research division." That's when every light on the Thunder suddenly blazed to life. The alien teams froze as the ship's corridors lit up with bright white light. Their scanning devices went crazy, showing power readings that hadn't been there seconds ago. "What's happening?" Captain Reed demanded, watching through the video feeds as his teams looked around in confusion. A deep human voice echoed through every corridor of the Thunder. "This is Commander Tom Mason of the United Earth Ship Thunder. You are currently trespassing on a sovereign military vessel of the Human Federation." The alien teams raised their weapons, spinning around, trying to find the source of the voice. On his bridge, Captain Reed stood up from his chair, all 4 eyes wide with surprise. "Impossible," he said. "The ship was abandoned. Our scans showed minimal power." Tom's voice continued, calm and firm. "I'll make this simple. You have exactly 10 minutes to remove your salvage teams and retreat to a safe distance. After that, I will consider your presence an act of aggression." Captain Reed quickly regained his composure. This was clearly some automated defense system, he told himself. Some primitive programming left behind by the humans. "This is Captain Reed of the Galactic Alliance Exploration Fleet," he responded. "Your vessel is in Alliance space and has been designated as a derelict. We claim salvage rights under Galactic Law, Section 47B. In the Thunder's bridge, Tom couldn't help but smile. "Old Thunder, show them why that's a bad idea. Just a small demonstration, please." Suddenly, every alien scanning device stopped working. Their environmental suits' advanced systems flickered, and their communication devices filled with static. Then, as quickly as it happened, everything returned to normal. "What was that?" one of the salvage team members asked, his voice shaking slightly. "A simple electronic warfare pulse," Tom's voice explained. "One of our more primitive systems, as you call them. Would you like to see what our advanced systems can do?" Captain Reed felt the first stirring of doubt. Their scans hadn't detected any electronic warfare capabilities. What else had they missed? "This is absurd," Reed declared. "One human cannot operate a warship of this size. Our scans show your weapons are outdated and your shields are non-existent. Don't force us to take action." The lights in the Thunder's corridors dimmed to a soft blue. "Captain Reed," Tom said, his voice now carrying a note of amusement, "did you ever wonder why these ships were left out here? Why the humans would leave such powerful vessels as simple relics?" Around the alien teams, hidden panels in the walls began to slide open, revealing sophisticated weapon systems that their scans had completely missed. Small defensive drones emerged from concealed bays, their weapons powered but not yet targeting. "We are not relics, Captain," Tom continued. "We are guardians. The Thunder-class ships were left here as a first line of defense, hiding in plain sight. Your scans showed you exactly what we wanted you to see." In his command chair, Captain Reed watched in growing alarm as his sensors suddenly detected multiple power signatures throughout the human vessel. Systems were coming online that hadn't been there before, and their energy readings were far beyond what should have been possible for a ship this old. 8 minutes remaining, Captain Reed," Tom announced. "I suggest you use them wisely. Oh, and one more thing. Humans never build warships that can be operated by a single person. Would you like to meet the rest of my crew?" Deep within the Thunder, Thousands of cryopods began their wake-up sequence, and Old Thunder's artificial intelligence prepared to demonstrate just how devastating primitive human engineering could be. Captain Reed's confidence crumbled as his ship's sensors went haywire. The HFY Thunder, which had appeared dead just minutes ago, now blazed with energy signatures that his science officers couldn't even classify. "Sir," his science officer called out, antenna twitching nervously. "Something's wrong with our readings. The human ship's power core. It's not primitive at all. The energy pattern suggests technology far beyond what humans should have had 50 years ago." On the Thunder's bridge, Tom watched multiple screens showing the alien salvage teams scrambling to understand what was happening. Old Thunder's voice came through his neural interface. "Commander, all systems are now at full power. The crew revival process is 30% complete." "Excellent," Tom replied. "Let's give our guests a proper demonstration of human engineering. Activate the internal defense grid. Low power only. We don't want to hurt them. Yet." Throughout the Thunder's corridors, hidden panels continued to open. Small, spherical drones emerged, their surfaces covered in complex patterns that the alien scanners couldn't seem to focus on. They surrounded the salvage teams, maintaining a careful distance. "What are these devices?" one alien engineer asked, trying to scan a nearby drone. "My equipment can't get a clear reading. It's like they're shifting somehow." Another engineer raised his cutting tool toward a drone. Instantly, the tool powered down, completely dead. When he lowered it, it sparked back to life. "Impossible," the engineer whispered. "They're generating some kind of targeted energy field." On his ship, Captain Reed watched in growing horror as more of the Thunder's true capabilities revealed themselves. The thick armor plates that they had mocked were changing, their surface seeming to ripple like liquid metal while maintaining their structural integrity. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "their hull. It's not just armor. It's some kind of adaptive material. And those weapon ports we detected earlier, they were decoys. The real weapons are built into the hull itself." Tom's voice came through their communications again. "Captain Reed, you have 5 minutes remaining. I notice you're scanning our adaptive armor. Impressive, isn't it? Humans may have started with primitive thick armor plates, but we learned to make them dance." As if to demonstrate, sections of the Thunder's hull shifted and flowed, revealing previously hidden weapon emplacements. Each one was significantly more advanced than the decoy systems the aliens had detected earlier. "Commander Mason," Reed called out, trying to keep his voice steady, "surely we can discuss this reasonably. The Alliance has no hostile intentions. We merely wish to study your vessel." Deep in the Thunder's engineering section, more alien team members were discovering just how wrong their initial assessments had been. The primitive physical buttons and controls were transforming, holographic interfaces springing to life around them. The simple metal walls now glowed with complex energy patterns. "Their entire ship is waking up," an alien technician reported, his voice shaking. "These systems, they're not just advanced, they're integrated in ways we've never seen. The whole ship is like one living organism." Tom smiled as he watched the aliens finally beginning to understand. "Old Thunder, show them why we call you Old Thunder. Just a little rumble, if you please." The massive human warship's engines came to life with a deep, resonating hum that shook both vessels. The sound wasn't just physical, it resonated on frequencies that made the aliens' advanced equipment squeal in protest. 3 minutes, Captain Reed," Tom announced. "And since you seem interested in human engineering, here's another free lesson. We learned long ago that the best defense isn't always the most visible one." As he spoke, the space around the Thunder began to distort subtly. The alien sensors tried to analyze the phenomenon but failed completely. "Sir," Reed's science officer shouted in panic, "they're generating some kind of field we've never seen before. It's not like any shield technology in our database. It's like they're bending space itself." Captain Reed stared at his displays in disbelief. The primitive human warship was now revealing technologies that put their best Alliance systems to shame. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a terrifying thought began to form. If this was what humans had 50 years ago, what were they capable of now? Captain Reed paced on his bridge, his four hands clenched into fists. The situation had spiraled completely out of control. What should have been a simple salvage operation had turned into a standoff with a warship that was far more advanced than anything they had expected. 2 minutes remaining. Tom's voice announced calmly through their comm systems. "I notice you haven't started evacuating your salvage teams, Captain. That's not a wise decision." Reed's pride flared. He was an Alliance captain, commanding the most advanced fleet in this sector. He wouldn't be threatened by a single human vessel, no matter how surprising its technology might be. "Engineering," he snapped, "initiate a power surge through their hull breach. Let's show them what real Alliance technology can do. Disable their systems before they fully activate." The alien engineers rushed to comply, directing a massive energy pulse toward the Thunder's exposed hull sections. The pulse struck the human ship and simply vanished. "Interesting attempt," Tom commented, actually sounding amused. "Old Thunder, would you like to explain to our friends what just happened?" The AI's voice, smooth and confident, emerged from every speaker in both ships. "The energy pulse was absorbed by our quantum mesh defense grid. Thank you for the extra power. We've added it to our reserves." Inside the Thunder, the remaining alien salvage teams watched in awe as the hull breach they'd created simply sealed itself, advanced nanomaterials flowing like water to repair the damage. 1 minute, Tom announced. "Captain Reed, I'm actually hoping you'll make the wrong choice here. It's been 50 years since this old girl had a proper workout." Reed's tactical officer suddenly shouted in alarm. "Sir, their weapons are. They're not what we thought. The energy readings. These aren't just rail guns and plasma weapons." On the Thunder's bridge, Tom nodded to himself. "Old Thunder, defensive pattern Alpha. Show them what a primitive human warship can really do." The space around the Thunder erupted with activity. What the aliens had thought were simple armor plates split apart, revealing layers of technology that their sensors couldn't even classify. The hull itself seemed to come alive, shimmering with energy patterns that made the Alliance crew's eyes hurt to look at. 30 seconds. Tom's voice counted down. "Your last chance, Captain. My crew is almost fully revived, and they're quite eager to demonstrate their skills." Reed looked at his sensor displays in growing horror. The human ship was now registering power levels that should have been impossible in a vessel that size. And worse, his own ship's systems were starting to behave strangely, influenced by technologies he couldn't understand. "Sir," his science officer reported, voice shaking, "they're not just jamming our sensors anymore. They're rewriting our scanning protocols somehow. Our most advanced systems can't even understand what we're looking at." The Thunder's transformation continued. What had appeared to be a simple, blocky warship now bristled with weapon systems that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. The primitive railguns transformed, revealing quantum acceleration chambers that made the Alliance's best weapons look like toys. 10 seconds, Tom announced. "I should thank you, Captain Reed. Do you know how boring it is, drifting out here, waiting for someone to underestimate us? Old Thunder, and I so rarely get to show off." Reed finally broke. "All teams, evacuate immediately. Emergency withdrawal. Get back to the ships now." The alien salvage teams scrambled toward their vessels, their advanced equipment useless against the overwhelming display of human military technology. As they ran, the Thunder's internal drones followed them, herding them toward the exits. "A wise choice," Tom said as the last alien crew member fled the ship. "Old Thunder, let's give them a proper goodbye. Just a tiny demonstration of our main guns." A section of the Thunder's hull shifted, revealing a weapon port that hadn't been there before. A beam of pure white energy lanced out, passing between two of the alien ships. Where it traveled, space itself seemed to twist and bend. The beam struck an empty piece of space, creating an explosion that lit up the entire sector. When the light faded, Captain Reed and his crew stared in silence at the perfectly spherical hole that had been carved in the fabric of reality itself. "Class dismissed," Tom said simply. "I trust you've learned something about primitive human engineering today." Captain Reed stared at the hole in space where the Thunder's weapon had struck. His entire understanding of human technology had been shattered in less than an hour, but pride and anger still clouded his judgment. "All ships, battle formation," he ordered. "They may have advanced weapons, but we still outnumber them 6-1. On the Thunder's bridge, Tom shook his head as he watched the alien ships move into attack positions. "They never learn, do they, old Thunder?" "It appears not, Commander," the eye replied. "Crew revival is now complete. All combat stations are manned and ready. Should we show them our full capabilities?" "Let's make this educational," Tom said, standing up from his command chair. "All hands, battle stations. Time to remind the galaxy why humanity survived its first contact wars." The alien fleet spread out, their ships moving with practiced precision. Their weapons powered up, energy readings climbing to maximum levels. Captain Reed felt his confidence returning as he watched his fleet take position. "Commander Mason," Reed transmitted, "you've made your point about human engineering, but you face 6 Alliance warships. Be reasonable. Power down your weapons and surrender." The Thunder's response came not in words, but in action. The human warships all rippled, layers of advanced technology unfolding like a blooming flower. What had once looked like a simple warship now bristled with weapons that didn't seem to follow the normal laws of physics. "You know what your biggest mistake was, Captain." Tom's voice came through clearly. "You assumed that because we left these ships out here, they must be outdated. You never stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, we left our best weapons on guard duty." The Thunder's engines flared to life, but instead of normal propulsion, the space around the ship began to twist. In seconds, the massive vessel had somehow positioned itself between 2 Alliance ships without appearing to move. "Impossible," Reed's tactical officer shouted. "They're using some kind of localized space manipulation. Our weapons can't get a target lock." Tom's voice remained calm. "Old Thunder, disable their primary weapons. Gentle touch, please. We don't want to break their toys completely." Before the alien fleet could react, pulses of energy shot out from the Thunder's hull. Where they struck the Alliance ships, weapon systems simply shut down. No explosions, no damage. They just stopped working. What are you doing to our ships?" Reed demanded, watching as system after system went dark. "Quantum state manipulation," Tom explained. "We're simply convincing your weapons that they're in a state of non-operation. Don't worry, the effect is temporary. Consider it a safety feature." The alien crews watched in helpless awe as their most advanced technology was casually disabled by systems they couldn't even understand. The Thunder moved between their ships like a ghost, space itself bending around it. "Sir," Reed's science officer reported, "their ship, it's not just moving through space, it's moving space itself. The power required for that, it's beyond anything in our database." Tom's voice came through again, this time with a hint of steel. "Captain Reed, your weapons are disabled, your sensors are blind, and your engines are about to take a little nap. Are you ready to have a civilized discussion about Alliance ships respecting human territory?" As if to emphasize his point, the Thunder fired another shot from its main gun. This time, the beam split into 6 perfectly controlled streams, each one creating a small spatial distortion just meters from each Alliance ship's hull. "That was 0.1% power," Tom stated. "Would you like to see what happens at full charge? I'll warn you, though. The last time we fired these weapons at full power, we accidentally created a small moon." The alien crews watched in silence as their mighty ships floated helpless before what they had thought was a primitive relic. Captain Reed, his pride finally broken, slumped in his command chair. "Stand down all ships," he ordered quietly. "Commander Mason, We appear to have made a serious error in judgment. Yes, Tom agreed. You did. Now, shall we discuss the proper protocols for encountering human vessels in the future? I believe you'll find our terms quite reasonable, all things considered. 3 days after the confrontation, the news spread through the Galactic Alliance like wildfire. Captain Reed's report, though heavily redacted, painted a clear picture. Human technology was far beyond what anyone had imagined. In the Alliance Central Command, a group of high-ranking officials watched the sensor recordings from Reed's ships with growing concern. They let us record everything, one admiral said quietly. They wanted us to see what they could do. Meanwhile, the UES Thunder drifted peacefully at its station, looking once again like a simple, outdated warship. Its advanced systems were hidden, its weapons concealed beneath seemingly primitive armor plates. Tom stood on his bridge, watching the last Alliance ship disappear into faster-than-light travel. Old Thunder, send the status report to command. I think we've made quite an impression. Message sent, Commander, the AI replied. Human command acknowledges our report. There, amused by the situation. Apparently, 3 other Thunder-class ships had similar encounters this month. Tom smiled, looking at the star map displayed on his main screen. Dozens of dots marked the positions of other abandoned human warships, each one guarding its own sector of space, each one waiting patiently for someone to underestimate humanity. How many Alliance ships do you think will try to salvage our sisters now? He asked, already knowing the answer. Based on current projections, Old Thunder responded, incidents of attempted salvage will decrease by approximately 98.7%. However, we are detecting increased long-range scanning from multiple species. In Alliance space, Captain Reed faced the inquiry board. His mandibles twitched nervously as he explained his actions. The humans, he concluded, they didn't just advance their technology. They completely changed how it works. That ship wasn't just powerful. It broke our understanding of what's possible. One of the board members leaned forward. And you believe they have more of these vessels? Many more, Reed confirmed, each one disguised as a relic, waiting in strategic positions. We've been blind to their true capabilities all along. Back on the Thunder, Tom received a new transmission from Human Command. He read it and laughed. Well, Old Thunder, looks like our little demonstration is having the desired effect. Alliance Diplomatic Corps is requesting an emergency meeting with human representatives. They want to update existing treaties in light of new information. Shall I update our mission parameters? The AI asked. No need, Tom replied, settling into his command chair. We'll stay right here, looking old and obsolete. After all, that's what we do best. Throughout human space, other Thunder-class ships continued their silent vigil. Some were discovered by curious aliens, others remained hidden. But each one carried the same message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. In the weeks that followed, Alliance research teams pored over the sensor data from the encounter. They found that the more they studied it, the less they understood. The human technology didn't just surpass their own. It worked on principles they couldn't even comprehend. It's like they took a different path entirely. One researcher explained to his superiors, while we focused on improving existing technologies, they reimagined what technology could be. Tom received regular updates about the diplomatic chaos their demonstration had caused. Alliance species that had once looked down on primitive humans were now rushing to establish better relations. Funny how a little humility can change perspectives, he mused, watching the stars through his viewport. Old Thunder, how long until our next patrol cycle? 3 months, 4 days, 17 hours, the AI responded promptly. Shall I maintain our current primitive appearance until then? Of course, Tom said with a smile. Let's stay primitive and outdated. It's worked pretty well so far. And so the UES Thunder returned to its quiet vigilance, its true nature hidden beneath layers of deception. It was joined by dozens of its sister ships, each one a guardian disguised as a relic, each one carrying the same message to the galaxy. underestimate humanity at your own risk. For in the vast darkness of space, the old thunder still rolled, and its voice, when needed, could shake the very foundations of reality itself.